Good afternoon, Scott Baker. I see you
Good
there.
afternoon. Yeah, good to see you, Mikey. It is Sunday. It's February 8th. That would be Super Bowl Sunday here in the United States. And live with you folks every afternoon, most days on 3 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm glad you're here. So if you're watching or listening live, great. Jump in, comment,
Yeah,
question. If you're listening later, we love you just as much.
right.
So today's and we mean that. And the topic today is motivation, and and this is one of those ones where I read it. The title of it is "Beyond Praise: Why the Best Leaders Use Higher Forms of Recognition."
Right.
And I did the editing yesterday, and then after I go through and then I proof it and all that, I usually have my wife take a pass at it because she's got a good eye for these kind of things. And as I sent it over, I said, "This is a long one, but it's a good one."
Nice. So recognition is not always thought of as like the way to inspire and motivate people. Certainly motivating and inspiring people is something that leaders think about quite a bit. They want to be able to motivate their
Mm-hmm.
people. They want to be able to inspire their team. How to
Mm-hmm.
do it is oftentimes wrapped up in this idea of let's give a rousing speech. Like that's what motivation
Right.
is.
Yeah.
But on a day-to-day basis, you're not giving rousing speeches, right? I would hope
Correct.
I'd
Yeah.
like to think that a lot of leaders wouldn't be like, "Oh, well, I need to give a rousing speech every morning." Like that's how we begin our
Yeah.
work day. Hopefully, you're not thinking that, but just
No.
it's
Yeah.
it's oftentimes not thought of that recognition is the thing to do it. However,
Mm-hmm.
there is definitely a demotivating factor. Now, so if I'm going to tell this story because we were together in Chicago 3 days
Mm-hmm.
ago when we were pulling up at the airport, there was a shuttle that was at a designated gate at the airport that was picking us up and
Mm-hmm.
taking us to the hotel that we were all meeting at. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a person from our firm, and I'm not picking on her because of this would happen because it was not that big of a deal, right?
Okay.
But but I recognized early on that we were supposed to carry our bags to the back of the van. That the shuttle driver didn't want us to bring the bags right up to the front, and a person who is part of our firm was there, standing at the bus stop with us. But she was feeling some anxiety around what do I do with my bag? How did you know to get to the what's this? So she didn't look me in the face and she didn't recognize that it was me, right? And so
Mm.
we had this exchange where she said, am I supposed to take my bag to the, and I told her, and I said to her, but I had this very friend because I recognized her, right? But she didn't recognize me. But I
Right.
realized she didn't recognize me because I realized in the moment, oh, she never actually fully looked me in the face. So I don't think
Yeah.
she knows that it was me who was giving her those directions. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
my initial thought was, how do I don't want her to be embarrassed about the idea that we had
Sure.
this
How do you
exchange.
diffuse this?
Yeah, right. And so she got onto the bus and I was about to make eye contact with her and look, and she didn't even look at me when she got on the bus. And I was like, oh, this might make it even more awkward now. And we got off when we arrived at the hotel, we got off the shuttle right away. And while we were on the shuttle, she recognized me and she was like,
Mm.
and so she immediately, but we don't interact every day. We hardly ever actually interact.
Right. Right.
But but as a result, she
And
quickly,
you've been growing a beard.
yes, right. So there's lots of things. Like I want to give
Right.
her all the excuses because it's really not
Right.
that big of a deal. But I did think in the moment how weird it is to not be recognized. Like, and I'm
Hmm.
using this in like the
Right.
literal
In a
sense.
larger sense of recognition. Sure.
Right. And there is something about it being demotivating to some people that like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even recognize the guy, right? And I wasn't demotivated. It worked on me in an opposite kind of way because I didn't want her to feel awkward because I knew that we'd
Mm-hmm.
be interacting with each other throughout the weekend, right?
Yeah.
She was able to expertly diffuse it like as we got off, and I was like, and the way she said it was like in the middle of my anxiety
She
around
handed her
figuring
bag
out.
to you and gave you $2.
No, she made even more of a joke about her own anxiety, but that would have been a funny
Gotcha.
one.
Right.
That would have been a really
Yeah.
funny. But the idea of like recognition is something that we think of as like this flippant kind of thing.
Hmm.
Like if we actually put more symbolism, symbolic nature into like what we're doing and how we're doing around recognition, it actually does have a strangely motivating effect on people where
Yeah.
we wouldn't. So we need to take it beyond this idea of like just simple recognition. And it makes me think of Avatar. Have you seen the latest Avatar movie?
Thankfully not.
I actually agree with that assessment. In
Okay.
the
All right.
in the first three Avatar movies, the most
Hmm.
pronounced thing that's
Oh,
carried
I
on.
thought you were going to say in the first 3 hours.
No, right. There's a greeting that takes place in the Avatar film
Hmm.
franchise where the,
Hmm.
the natives of Pandora greet each other,
Hmm.
not at first, but once they have this further relationship where they say to each other, I see you. Now,
Hmm.
this is a greeting taken from, I think James Cameron took it directly from the Zulu tribe.
Okay.
Um, their word is Sawubona. And when they say Sawubona to each other, it's the most common greeting that they have in Zulu, but it is this recognition that says, I see you and I
Hmm.
see you for who you are, and I can
Hmm.
see your soul, right? It's much
Yeah.
deeper thing that says, so it doesn't say you are part of my community, but it kind of means that, right? And so it
Right.
makes me
Yeah.
want to show up in Zulu to see like how accepting will you be of me, an outsider, with this greeting? Or is there other greetings that you have for outsiders? Or is this very like a cultural, I'm going to turn an outsider into an insider very quickly, right? But it shows up that way in the Avatar movie as well. At the beginning, the character who is definitely an outsider does not get this greeting. And then by the end of the movie, in a very significant way, they are saying to each other, I see you. I see you. And so, with just
Yeah.
three simple words, recognition becomes this motivating thing in this film.
For sure. Well, man, I think that well, there's a lot to unpack here, and
Right.
so I think that the nature of recognition and how you deceived our colleague into thinking that you were a porter, which is
Right.
a noble job. Actually, I like lifting heavy things. I personally, had I been in your situation, I said, could I carry that for you? And I would have just not thought about it and carried her bag to the back of the bus. So here, but look at the factor here that as you said, there's the rousing speech you can give, there's the praise, and I think this is the indictment of the field note because it says beyond praise. It's it's not saying that leaders shouldn't say, "Hey, good job. Hey, really well done," but the field note is saying it's kind of easy.
Mhm.
It actually is sort of it is something you just slap on without much thought.
Yes.
Whereas if you get to recognition, it shows that you've actually had to, you need to be thinking at this at a deeper level. But it does go to this fundamental sort of factor about the power of recognition, which is built into all of us. We actually, from our earliest development, even fetally, we're looking and listening, and they have ways of tracking these things, prenatal, and the way that infants look at their parents. And so that when you say that people are desirous of recognition, it's part of three things that the field note lists. That people are
Mhm.
always looking and wanting to know: am I special? Do I matter? Do I belong? Right? Is there
Yes.
something unique about me? Is what I'm doing actually consequential? And how's the tribe here? Or have I
Yes.
found my people? Right. So we're
Yes.
always kind of in some way searching to kind of get that validation. And so that ability to say you are unique and what you're doing does matter is more than just saying good job. I had a news director at a television station where I worked many years ago. I don't know if that person still does this, but it was very corny. And he had a tradition of what he called attaboys and attagirls.
Hmm.
And so if there was one a day, then he would give the attaboy to the person or the attagirl to the person that kind of did a good job that day.
In a
Now,
formal setting, he would do this. In some kind of a stand-up 15 meeting, he would give away the
I
attaboy of the day.
you know what? I've blocked it out of my mind what the actual procedure was, but the phrase sticks in my head.
Ah.
And later I later determined that this guy was, I don't know, kind of a weasel.
Oh.
And
Oh,
so
that's
I
a shame. So it destroyed
yeah,
the attaboy for you as
yeah,
this
right. Yeah. Because you're like,
trivial trait.
okay,
Yeah.
you're just using this as some little, like, cheap motivational technique.
Hmm.
Whereas the field note is saying when we have to get to this level of recognition, actually kind of digging in and digging under, that takes more from the leader. Now,
Yes.
I think that that's kind of what admired leadership is all about. Taking us where we are, whether we're reading field notes, whether we're in an interaction with Alex, whether we're in the main playbook platform, whether we're getting one on one coaching. It's like, the call is on us to step up, to get better, to improve our leadership skills so that we can make those around us better. And so that's what, let's talk about this, the rest of this edition of Lead Better, like what it then looks like to dig through how to give real recognition that matters and lasts.
Right. Okay. So there's another field note, or maybe it was just a conversation that we had firm
Or
wide
something
where
you
we were.
dreamed about, or had
It
an,
could
you
have
had
been.
some hallucinated a conversation.
But
This seems pretty fuzzy. Go ahead.
but the idea of like how a leader receives compliments, it's
Mm-hmm.
important to recognize that most compliments that are given to leaders say more about the person who's giving the compliment than about the compliment itself. So, as a
Mm-hmm.
strategy for leaders to recognize how they should receive compliments, because oftentimes you're kind of torn with the idea of
Mm-hmm.
just deflecting what they said or absorbing it in a
Never do
way
that,
that
by the
makes you
way,
feel
but go ahead.
right, or absorb it in a way that makes you feel like you're so being a little bit
Mm-hmm.
anti-humble, right? And so people are stuck when they're in the middle of receiving a compliment. But if you recognize that oftentimes, most oftentimes, where the compliment is coming from is that a person wants to be recognized for a certain kind of person who is able to see something in me, because it's really only. And so there's this full circle moment in this
Mm-hmm.
compliment giving, compliment receiving. And so the advice for leaders is to just recognize the person for the type of compliment they're giving, because oftentimes they're just reflecting the type
Mm-hmm.
of thing that they have the ability to recognize. Like
Mm-hmm.
they want to be seen, right? And so being able to kind of turn it back into an act of recognition back on them is the
Mm-hmm.
advice that you oftentimes give to leaders. And it's a simple exercise because it allows leaders to not make the mistakes that oftentimes happen in receiving compliments, right? But this idea of being able to enter into a cycle of I see you seeing me,
Mm-hmm.
seeing you, thank you, right?
Right. Yeah.
But in a lot of ways that's what we want. This notion of these three things that are mentioned here: I'm special, I matter, and I belong. If you're giving me a compliment,
Right.
for me to be able to reflect it, Scott, I think I've only been told that two or three times in my life. And it's always from people just like you who kind of recognize that as important and then also see it in me as well. So you're saying it to encourage me, but for me to be able to receive it in a way that's encouraging, that says, I recognize you as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
It creates that cycle that is really what part of a community should be like. Is like, I
For
see
sure.
you, you see me.
Yeah. And this doesn't have to be, understand how I'm going to say this. This doesn't have to be kind of a Mr. Rogers, you are special. No disrespect to Mr. Rogers, who I
Right.
nearly killed with my car one time here in Pittsburgh. Other
Sounds like a
story.
different story.
Uh,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I was actually at a place last night where I had been at a meeting where years ago I actually met his widow. He had already passed away, and I told her the story, and she forgave me. She blamed him. So that said, that the muscularity of your leadership doesn't require you to say, "I see you,
Right.
you're special, you really matter." It's different than that. In fact,
Yes.
one of the things that I think is part of what you were just describing is the very best kind of recognition is when I point out something in what you've done that you didn't even realize you were doing. And I say, did you
Yes.
notice how that when you do this and this happens, and that's why clients respond to you, and you go, gosh, wow. Like
Yes.
I thought I was doing a good job, but I didn't even, like then that's really motivating, right? But the key point here, and this leads up to, and hang with us on this one for a minute or two here, because there's a killer line in this field note that we're getting to. So the point of when a leader is saying, some of the examples in the field note, just, hey, I've noticed how much time you put into this. That was a real decision. That took a lot of courage on your part. What you did really mattered because then the team discussion really opened up. The way that you've been helping some of the new folks, you're kind of the go-to mentor on our team right now. These are things beyond just saying, hey, good job.
Yes.
Right. This is what we're talking about recognition, getting it to that level. And then here's the line. If I say, good job, Mikey might say, hey, thanks. Right.
Yes. Except I might not say that because good job in my family where I grew up was actually code for bad job. Right.
Yeah. Right.
You don't actually know what good job means to me. So there's a danger in that.
Yeah, in fact, Randall, the founder, who writes a lot of field notes, he said in his military family, about the best you could get was not bad.
Yes.
So, not bad. Oh, okay. It wasn't a disaster, right? So now here's the thing that I really love in this field note. If I say, good job, hey, that was great, you go, hey, yeah, thanks, and you kind of feel pretty good. Praise, simple praise, typically ends the conversation. Mm-hmm. Recognition often starts one.
Right.
Really? Well, thanks for that. Or what did you see? Or what, how did you see the team responding? Or you might actually, or I can say, let's talk a little bit more about that. I love that idea that when we're recognizing excellence in each other, that it is an invitation to kind of look at what that excellence looks like or understand it at a deeper level. It's not something you just kind of take as a, hey, are you having a good day? And then you move on. Can you be the kind of leader that starts those conversations?
Right. And there's, it's powerful because it means that you have to put a little bit more thought into it. But that thought can start with just kind of opening your eyes to why this person is important for the team, why they fit in this role, because that's really what they're asking for. Like for you to be able to say to them, no one else on this team does this. And that's why you're important here. Like in a lot of ways, that's why you belong. Like that's motivating. That kind of creates the kind of loyalty that nothing else that you would be able to say all year long really does. Right. So those are the moments that people really do look for.
And ultimately, putting a full sort of scope on this, because we didn't even actually talk about how the field note starts. It points out the fact that motivation is really something fairly interior to people. It's actually pretty rare for a leader to be able to really get somebody to care when they don't.
Yes.
Right. Or they've got a certain level of drive and we're gonna try to 10x it. But what you can do, people, and if you are high performers, people come in with a degree of that. So now though, when you start to kind of apply this level of recognition, it's fanning a fire that is already burning in the heart of that person. And it's getting it to be warmer and brighter, and it's really getting everybody to the next level. But that requires you to be a leader of the next level.
I think it takes a lot of what people might think of extrinsic motivation in their life, and it flames it in such a way where it starts to become intrinsic because of the way that you're recognizing it. That's excellent.
Dynamite.
All right, great. Happy Sunday to you. You have a Super Bowl party plans tonight?
Nothing major.
Okay.
But I love taking notes. I love watching how the coaches and people respond in the middle of adversity, and this is one of the great days to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Have a good day.
See you tomorrow.